right, my Renowned fam, welcome back to the Renowned Leadership Podcast. I hope you guys are excited, getting cock-locked, ready to rock for this 4th of July weekend coming up. If you live in the United States, of course. If you don't live in the United States, well, it's your loss. We're partying this weekend because it's the 4th of July. So anyway, we've been talking a lot these past couple of months about different strategies to not just build your entrepreneurial portfolio, I guess you could say, but different strategies on just building wealth in general. And my guest today, Mike Mannino, is a top-notch real estate investor. And I know a month ago we had Jen and Stacy Conkey on. They were talking about investing in multifamily type apartment type real estates and how you can go about that, how you can start with that. But Mike has a different approach. He's more of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, more into the flipping and single family home type real estate investing. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's how I started. I actually have two businesses, one to buy, fix, and flip single family, and then also buying multifamily like Jen and Stacy, and they are awesome people.
Oh, you know Jen and Stacy?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I totally didn't know that. So go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, Mike, and tell us who you are, what you're about, and what you got going on.
Yeah, man. So my name is Mike Mannino. I grew up in Michigan. I now live in South Carolina for the last year and a half, and I buy, fix, and flip houses at this point without seeing them in person. We have done over 80 houses in my business by the age of 30. Now I'm 31. I got to update how many houses it's been. And like I was saying too, we also buy multifamily apartments. Right now, I have 65 apartments. But we are under contract in a 44 unit. So by the time this airs, I will have another 44. So it'll be at over 100 apartments paying us every single month. So that's my two businesses, really.
That's awesome. And so I want to dive right into house flipping because um, TV and social media and all its glory has made house flipping seem like this thing that's like this golden egg from the golden goose. And with a little bit of money and a whole lot of hard work and a little bit of, elbow grease, all that, like you can make yourself a millionaire in just a couple of months. At least that's kind of how what I feel coming
Portray.
from,
Sure.
yeah, being portrayed. But it's not quite like that. I'm sure your experience is much different than what we see on TV or social media. So talk to us about like when you started, how you got into it, and what it was like building up to where you're able to invest in a 44 unit apartment.
Yeah, very good question. So it is not like HGTV. I'll tell you that right now. It's the complete opposite of that. But I'll start on my journey. And two, I wanted to kind of touch on mindset for a second. I know before we recorded, we talked about this and we kind of had like similarities. Your story's obviously a lot more intense than mine, but um, to be successful in life, you need to have the right mindset. I'll tell you that right now, because where you are today and where you want to be in the future, the only difference is right between years right here. Um,
Amen.
So, when I was 13 years old, I was diagnosed with a disease called Crohn's disease, which is kind of like an ulcer in your stomach. So, I basically hurt really, really bad when I ate. So I actually stopped eating. I lost a lot of weight because the pain of not eating was less than the pain of eating. And then I went to the doctors, and I was on 16 different medications a day. I was on steroids. I blew up. I went the opposite way. Then I blew up like Pillsbury Doughboy, like gained 35 pounds. I'm 5'6" in middle school, so it doesn't look good on me. I'm a short guy. And that experience was the biggest blessing I've ever received in my life because it taught me that life is very fragile, right? Because, when you're a kid, you don't even think about life and death. You don't think about anything serious because you could like break your leg and then go run a marathon the next week because your body just heals so much, like, right? You get like a cut and then like 2 hours later it's gone. Um, so this taught me that, we're not promised tomorrow. And I met people who, they're in surgeries all the time, colonoscopy bags. It's a disease you have for the rest of your life. And I'll say with the power of God, and I watched the movie The Secret, and Jack Canfield's in it, the guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, um, 18 times from the age of 13 to 16 years old, because there was a lady in there who had breast cancer. And with the power of mindset of believing that she was already healed and positive thinking, but doing the right things, working out, eating right, keeping her stress levels low, because a dis-ease is just a body that's not at ease, right? That's what a disease is. So getting your body rebalanced, because I was a germaphobe, I was stressed out at schools and like wrestling and Boy Scouts and karate. And so we just kind of like reduced my stress levels, ate right, exercise. And from 13 to 16 years old, going through that experience, a disease you have for the rest of your life. Now I'm 31. I haven't been to the doctor since I was 16. I haven't been on any medications. I haven't had any of that. But that lesson taught me two things. One, life is fragile. And two, with the power of like working hard with the right positive mindset and putting yourself, your whole focus on one thing, what you can do, you can cure an incurable disease.
I love that. And, it's funny because I tell people all the time getting shot was one of the biggest blessings in the world. Just from a conversation standpoint, it's a blessing because all I have to do is drop that. And then, it could be instantly or 30 minutes later, somebody is inevitably going to say, so tell me about that. So I mean, it's a great conversation piece. And but outside of that, it's taught me resilience. It's taught me that I'm not bulletproof, but as long as my mindset's right, I'll be okay. It's either going to kill me or it's not. It's okay. Like just keep going. And so I love that piece. And you're absolutely right. Mindset. If you approach anything, as long as your mindset is correct in the right direction, you're going to succeed, right? We were just talking about Jen and Stacy Conkey. They brought up the point like being an entrepreneur, you're guaranteed success as long as you don't give up, right? That is the like being you're going to be successful eventually. You're going to find what works as long as you don't give up. So I mean, thanks for sharing that wisdom. And so you said like you haven't been to the doctor since you were 16 years old. So
Mhm.
you're 31 now. So it's been 15 years. Does it still hurt to eat? Like
No, I
you
don't
so
have any. Yeah, good question. I don't have any problems. I do stay away from like popcorn and nuts and things like that. So I do stay away from that food. And I make it a point to eat, we buy organic groceries as much as possible. We work out 4 to 5 days a week. I keep my stress levels down to zero, right? Because I know the alternative. So I'm still doing the right things. And but I'm very blessed that because I would go to the doctors if there was an issue, right? But knock on wood, 15 years, but and that's the thing too. I could wake up tomorrow and then start having issues, and I realized that.
yeah, which is also a blessing because that makes you very present in the moment, right? It keeps you grateful, it keeps you humbled, it keeps you grounded to where you need to be, which is also a very important part of being an entrepreneur because, we're not guaranteed to have clients tomorrow. And,
Yeah.
you're not guaranteed that house, that 44 unit contract's going to go through tomorrow, right? And it could cost
Hmm.
us everything. And we have to rebuild all over again. Dave Ramsey, I think, is one of the most amazing success stories when it comes to that, making millions of dollars, losing it all, and then making it again. So, I mean, things are going to happen, businesses are going to fail, and you just pick yourself back up. But keeping yourself grounded and humbled is, I think, the key to that. So that, when those things happen, you just, you mourn your peace and you get up and you dust yourself off and you start again. So I want to dive back into my original question though, and talk to us about your journey a little bit
Yeah.
and what that was like starting your own business.
Yeah. So, and everyone listening, if you're young or you have a child who's young, I highly, highly, highly recommend this part. So, going from there, I worked really hard for what I wanted. So I knew that I didn't want to work for the rest of my life. So at 16 years old, I was working 20 hours a week at McDonald's, which was the legal limit, while going to school 35 hours a week. Then I started bussing tables at 17, 18, I waited tables. 19 years old, I bought my first house because I just lived at mom and dad's house. I drove my first car with no horn, no AC, rusted out because I'm from Metro Detroit. And I saved $14,500 and I got what's called a FHA loan, which is a loan that allows you to put 3.5% down on a house. And this was back in 2012, where I bought a house as a foreclosure for $67,500. And I wrote a check. I was able to buy it for about $7,500. So like half of my net worth. It was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life because I'm saving $200, every weekend from waiting tables and throwing it into the bank account. And then I'm writing a $7,500 check. I'm like, what am I doing for a house that's like has blood on the walls? I need to rip out the carpet and it needs a ton of work. And but I knew because I wanted the 2010 yellow black stripe Camaro Bumblebee from Transformers that was hot in the day. And I I knew a few things. Like one, Bumblebee in 5 years was going to be worth less than I paid for it today. That's a guarantee. The house could be worth more, could be worth the same, could be worth less. I don't know, but it allows me to live outside the home and not pay rent. And I know that real estate does appreciate over time. So I thought it was a good investment. I bought it. I renovated it, and this is what I recommend everyone to do if you're starting out. It was a 3 bed, 2 bath house, and I fixed it up myself. And I had my roommates. I brought in roommates from people I waited tables with. My mortgage back then was $600 a month. I charged them $300 a month each, and we split utilities a third. So now if you kind of zoom out, Mike now has a house that's being fixed up because he's doing it himself. But now I'm waiting tables, putting myself to community college, and I live it for free, just a third of utilities because they pay my mortgage for me. And now I own an asset that's going to appreciate over time, right? Now instead of a car that's going to depreciate, it's guaranteed, right? Um, so 3 years later, I ended up selling it for 147,000. I had like a $60,000 check. I was like 22 years old. I was like, oh my God, this is 3 years of waiting tables. No joke. I made $18,000 a year. I'm like, this is so much money. Moved back home with mom and dad, immediately bought a foreclosed house within 30 days. And that was back in 2015. And we slowly grew the company to 2017. I brought my father on. We did, I want to say that was 4 houses that year. 2018, we did 9 houses. 2019, we started doing 20 something houses a year. Then I ended up retiring my father from construction. So now he no longer does the physical labor. He just rides around in his car, checks on the job sites, checks on the guys, works 20 hours a week, makes over 6 figures a year every single year. And we've been humming around 20 houses a year. 2023 was a little bit less. We were in the teens, but that's what our business looks like today.
Bro, that's so cool. I mean, I want to point out a few things. One, a very good head on your shoulders. Kudos to your parents who um, I have no doubt taught you those lessons of hard work and just being smart, understanding what is going to build your future and what's going to take away from it. And to be fully transparent, I still drive today a 2001 Jeep Wrangler that I bought when I was 18 years old, brand new. Um, Still drive it today, 40 years old.
That's awesome.
Like, right. And I mean, there are two things. One, I absolutely love that stupid thing. Um, and two, like it runs. What's the point? It's not sexy. I get it, but I don't care about cars because cars don't make me money. Like you said,
Exactly.
they depreciate instantly. The second you sign the papers, it's already lost its value. So I mean, I love that. Great advice there. And then the other thing is the hard work, right? Like you weren't like I'm sure 19-year-old Mike wasn't able to or didn't know necessarily how to reinstall carpet or
Yeah,
how
no.
to reinstall the trim or whatever, fix the drywall. Um whatever the case was, I'm sure that required a whole lot of, hey dad, how do I do this? Or
And YouTube,
go
yeah,
YouTube.
both.
Yeah.
It was both. I learned how to tile with YouTube. I'm like on YouTube, like how to tile, and I'm trawling, the tile. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like that is so important though, because especially when I deal with entrepreneurs that are just starting out, one of the things I hear a lot is I don't know how. And it's like, you know what?
Mm.
Like, that's good. I'm glad you don't know how. Go freaking figure it out. Like, stop making excuses and just go do. When I started this podcast, I didn't research it a bit. You know what I started with? My iPhone and headphones. That was it. That's how I started. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to get it out to all the podcasts. I had no idea what an RSS feed was. I knew nothing. I just figured it out as I went, right? You start doing the thing and you have to figure it out. And that is so important because those are life lessons that stick with you for the rest of your life, right?
You're
And now you aren't scared to buy that house with, oh crap, I got to do, all this tile work. That's not a problem. I've done it before. The things like that suddenly don't scare you, and you're able to take bigger and bigger and bigger risks that would paralyze most people.
100%. I love what you said. Entrepreneurs, to be successful, you have to take massive action. And you will put yourself, like you said, you don't know. You're like, I'm going to start podcasting. I'm just going to get the stuff. I'm going to figure it out. You don't know what you don't know, but you just start putting the pieces together. Same with the house. I had no idea what was behind drywall. I didn't know it was 2x4s, 16 inches apart, insulation, electrical and plumbing sometimes, right? But why I brought up that experience, like when I was 13, I was like, you know what? If I can put myself in any situation and figure this out, right? And I learned that at a young age, and that's why I said it's the biggest blessing because I learned that I can figure out even if it's impossible, right? I'll just figure it out. And and if you take a step back too, all of our problems are fake problems, anyways, right?
What do you mean?
We're not walking 4 miles, each way to go get fresh water and struggling for food,
Right.
right? I mean, seriously, if I lost money on a house, I'm like, okay, well, that stinks. But guess what? I can still eat and I lose my house and go to my parents' house. I'm not worried about fresh water and food and diseases, right? I mean, all of this is just for me, if you really look at it, it's fake problems. Is how much money can we make in a short amount of time? That's really it. Um, so uh and I want to talk about too with growing and being a leader. Um, so the first house I did myself, and I had dad too helping me because I'm like, I don't know how to do some of this. YouTube, it's not on YouTube. This is back in the day, but now it's everything on YouTube. Uh, you know, 12 years later. Um, and so this is something I learned, I think is very important, is to lean in on your strengths. So my first house, it took me 6 weeks to tile my first bathroom. 6 weeks. I would have Like I hated the whole process. I had no idea what I was doing. I was stressed out and the work wasn't that good. If I hired a contractor, it took him 6 weeks to tile a bathroom, I would fire him immediately. I'd be like, what are you doing? Right. So like, all right, I hate what I'm doing. I'm not good at it. I should not be doing this, right? I like looking for houses. I like looking for deals. I like raising money for deals. I like managing the whole process, but I don't want to do the whole process. So I only did one house and I quickly learned this is not for me. And the money is also not made in renovating the house. That's a 25 to $45 an hour task. It depends depending on the task, right? When you're looking for houses, I used to calculate it would be a $150 an hour task. Looking for the next deal, finding the deal, sending my contractors to the property, right? Having them renovate it, managing it, and then flipping it. And I did the math that the time for how much money we made and how much time I spent on it, it was like, wow, this is paid $150 an hour. So it would be irresponsible of me to be laying tile because it cost me less than $150 an hour to hire someone else to do that task for me. Does that make sense? So it's like you should not be doing tasks as an entrepreneur that you can hire out for less than what other tasks pay for. So when I first started, I called it the $75 an hour rule. If it costs less than $75 an hour, I would immediately hire it out. And the good thing is you can hire a lot of things out for 75 bucks an hour, right? Lawn maintenance, tile, electrical, this, that, the other thing. So then I was able to build a team of people to do these houses for me while I'm looking for the next house to keep our guys busy. I'm busy raising capital and managing our whole fix and flip business.
I agree completely. And that's one of the things I absolutely hate about the self-help world is a lot of them are like, you got to strengthen your weaknesses and all that nonsense. And I totally disagree with that because um, I am not a solid runner, right? I run every day, but I'm never ever in my life going to win the Boston Marathon. I love to play football. I've played football my entire life. I'm never going to be Peyton Manning. It's just not my skill set, right? And it's a waste of my time and resources to try to do those things. So I totally agree. Double down on your strengths and then, bring someone in to shore up your weaknesses because there are always going to be people out there that are amazing at doing the things you can't do. So I absolutely love that. And I love the way you frame it as the $75 rule because that makes total sense. And you're absolutely right. There are pretty much everything I do with the exception of running my business, I can hire out for under $75 an hour. So great philosophy, great principle. So talk to me because I'm sure you've met plenty of challenges in the real estate world because I'm not active in the real estate world, but I'm pretty sure it's safe to say with every deal comes a unique set of challenges that you don't see coming, and it's a lot of times completely new to you. How do you handle that adversity as an entrepreneur and as an investor?
Yeah, very good question. So just the mindset of like, hey, we can figure this out. Do you know what I love about real estate is you throw enough money at it, you can generally fix the problem. And that's a very big blessing. And you waited long enough, the problem will solve itself. Like if so, I have a friend of mine who's very successful, had $100 million tech company, and he started another company, and it cost him $750,000 a month, and he ran it for 9 months, and he's like, it wasn't going well. We killed the whole project. So he burned $750,000 a month for 9 months. I don't know how much that is. I don't want to do the math. Millions of dollars, and he just killed the project, and he has nothing to show for it, right? When real estate, you wait long enough, like let's say we're upside down in the house, 25,000 bucks. You wait a few years, you have equity, right? If there's a problem with the house, there's a foundation problem, there's a roof problem, whatever problem it is, you call someone, you hire them, you pay for them to fix the problem, and guess what? It gets solved and the problem's fixed. You have something to show for it. It's not going away. You can rent it out. And like I said, if you're upside down on equity, you wait long enough and the equity will come back, right? It's just because of inflation. So that's what I love about real estate. So to answer your question though, what do we do? At this point, I think I've seen everything, knock on wood. I don't want to see anything any crazier than I've seen, but I've bought houses with 4 feet of sewage water in the basement and the walls bowing in, right? And there's no electricity, no water. Um, and we go and we fix those problems. And we beautify those houses, and the neighbors are super excited. And you take it one step at a time. Like, first of all, we gotta get the sewage water out, right? So how do we get the sewage water out? Let's call some guy to pump this stuff out and get this out of here. Okay, now we got the sewage water out. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again. Okay, let's fix the plumbing. Okay, now that's fixed. Okay, now the walls are bowing in. Let's call our foundation guy. Threw up 21 steel posts around the foundation walls. The whole thing was a $30,000 fix, but we are able to, you know, step by step, assess the damage, what's going on, calling the right guys to fix it. So, um, I think it's honestly like it's an easier business than most businesses because there's people out there who are their business is to fix your problem, right? You need windows, you need a roof, you need appliances, you need floors, doors, trim, tile. There's people out there willing, to fix it. Where other businesses, you have to maybe create a new product where no one else understands your product or your software. You can't just hire people to do it and just say get it done. You have to like teach them, coach them. So I believe I'm very blessed to be in this industry because 90% of millionaires are made through real estate. I learned that at 21 years old. I said, you know what? Let's not recreate the wheel. I'm not that smart. I took pre-algebra 3 times at a community college. Let me just do real estate. And so, I can become a millionaire easier.
I love that. But I know like everything you just said goes back to mindset. And so I hate to beat the horse, but my wife sent me this text the other day. It was an article she read. I'm going to read it to you. And I want you to tell me what you think of it, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is it's this article said frustration and pain can fuel temptation that makes us more vulnerable to weakness. Whether it's isolation, overeating, casual sex, or too much alcohol, our desire to not feel pain, to run away from it, makes us compromise. We tell ourselves that we often deserve to feel better. When we hurt, we are more inclined to sacrifice a dream for something temporary. The consolation that our vices bring is at best fleeting or superficial, and at worst case, cruelly destructive. And the famous opera, and I'm going to totally butcher this, so forgive me, La Boheme? I don't know. There is a scene where two men suffer from a fierce winter in Paris. One of them, the writer, invested an insanely amount of time in his manuscript, but he is so cold he can no longer focus on his work. Having no money for coal or firewood to light a fire in the house, in a moment of complete despair, the writer throws his entire manuscript that he spent his entire life writing into the furnace, and in a matter of seconds, a stack of papers goes up in smoke. Everything he wrote has burnt. The writer sacrificed his dream for everything he worked for the sake of fleeting comfort. He gave up. And the article goes on, but I'm going to stop
Mhm.
there. How does that land with you, especially in your journey?
Yeah. Um, so if you listen to my journey, there's some points where I could have easily not even just thrown in the towel, but made different life decisions, right? So when I had $14,500 saved and I drove around a car with no horn and no AC and I wore a suit because I was also an intern at a financial planning, so I was sweating in my car in the summer and I drive by the dealership, I made a conscious decision. I could have been like, you know what, I'm getting that Camaro. I'd be the coolest 19-year-old. I'm gonna get the V8 AC horn, get girlfriends, be the coolest kid around, right? But I chose to take the hard path of buying a moldy house. None of my friends were doing that, right? I mean, now with this time, it's hard for anyone to buy a house. They're really expensive. And then when I sold the house, I made $60,000. I moved back home with mom and dad. I humbled myself for 2 years, and I still drove that car. I just bought another house, another moldy house, and just kept going and going and going. And I would say I love that story because it's temporary. There's a guy, Alex Hormozy, who's big on the internet, good marketer. And I look, and in real estate, you do have to look in 10-year periods. You're not looking in tomorrow, 3 months from now, periods. Like, is the house worth more? I bought it last week. Is it worth more today? Right? Because that's not the way it works. You gotta invest in yourself and in your future, and it takes a long period of time, and not just be going for the quick, money because it's very, especially as an entrepreneur, because there is no like you feel like there is no guarantee, and because you've never been successful before. Looking out, but like yes, if you do the steps, you will be successful. But when you're in it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's scary because you're like, am I gonna lose all my money? Am I gonna lose this $50,000 I just made from this house, right? Am I gonna lose that on this flip? Like I don't want to do that, but I was out there taking the risk and putting in the work and then you get rewarded for that. But yeah, it is scary. And but I would say the people who buy the big house as soon as they're out of college, buy the expensive Mercedes, by the time they're in their 30s and 40s, they have a lot of debt, all these payments. They don't have any retirement saved, nothing to show for it. Um, so I recommend just looking forward, like, hey, is this going to serve me? Like I said, this car is going to depreciate in 5 years, right? Like maybe this big house payment. Do I need this big house payment or can I get a smaller house, maybe invest the rest, right? And then I'm not stressed out. Then I'm not handcuffed to this job that pays me well to keep this house that I'm too busy at work to even enjoy, right? It doesn't make sense to me. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. I mean, I just wanted, that to me, that was it's such a powerful article. And what stuck to me the most was I deserve better, right?
Mm,
Because to me, that puts you in a victim mindset, right? This is happening to me. I don't deserve this, right? That straight victim mindset. And
oh yeah.
what is uh I hate that mindset because a victim inherently doesn't win, right? That's what a victim is, someone that loses. And so I refuse to allow myself to, or I try to not allow myself to go into that mentality. But what that article made me realize is I do say that a lot of times, like, I don't deserve this crap. Like, and it instantly flips your brain back into that victim mindset, and it just starts pulling you away from what you're trying to achieve, and then you have to do the work to get out of that mindset. Now, I'm sure Mike would be the first to attest, just like I am, we're human, we're not perfect, we do struggle every single day, or every other day, whatever the case is, on maintaining a positive mindset. But you got to maintain that positive mindset, and you have to constantly continue to grow. And so that's my next question for you then, Mike. How important is intellectual growth, mindset growth, spiritual growth, all of that? How important is that to you every single day to put in that work first so that you're able to do what you need to do in your business, in your family, just in your life in general?
Very good question. It's the most important thing. That's why I start off with that in the podcast because that's how important it is. I can talk about real estate, flipping houses, making money, buying apartment buildings, making over six figures on a deal. That's great. You can't do any of that without the right mindset and the positive mindset. And you're going to put yourself in situations where you don't know and you're scared and you're terrified. You think the whole thing's going to blow up, but that's okay. Like every successful person has been scared. Every single successful person has been scared. So that means if you're scared, that's okay. You're on the right path to success, right? We're not superhuman. There's no superpower. It's just realizing, hey, finding the right maybe mentors or people who are ahead of you. That's what I've done. I've been very blessed to do is find people who are at where I want to be, find a successful flipper, and then hire them as a mentor. Find a successful multifamily investor, hire them as a mentor. Anything in my life, I just surround myself with people who are smarter than me. So when I'm like, oh my gosh, I got this big problem, this house, oh my gosh. And they're like, it's okay. That's nothing. Don't worry about it. Just do this, it's fixed. It's all good. Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. And two, I recommend everyone, if you haven't, there's the movie and book called The Secret. It's a little like kind of like a little cheesy, how it's edited. But I've watched it 18 times and it's all about mindset. And um, if you think about it, the most successful people have expansive mindsets, positive mindsets. The poor, broke people have the victim mindsets. There's no rich people who have a poor, broke mindset and a victim mentality mindset, right? Um, I highly recommend checking that book or movie out. Like I said, I watched it 18 times, and it like when I was younger, I was a germaphobe, and I had I'm not smart, and I was struggling in school, and I was like stressed out, and putting myself like my body at disease at dis ease, which caused a disease in my body, and I was able to also fix that with my mind and how I thought. I'm telling you because it's everything. The mindset is everything. So being positive, And then especially as you're growing a team, you need to be a strong leader. Like I have a fix and flip team and I have partners. And if I'm freaking out and I have investors in my business, if I'm freaking out, they're going to be freaked out. They're like, wait, if Mike's unhinged, this is not good. But if, a problem comes up and hey, don't worry, we'll fix it. We'll find out a solution. I don't know what it is yet, but we're working on it. Right? Is a lot more calm than like, oh my gosh, this is the whole thing. I have no idea what's going on. Like, right? And then it's gonna cause your employees, your partners, your investors to pull away from you. You're not gonna attract the best of the best. Um, so it's important for yourself, your personal life, your business life, and the impact you have on the world as well. Because I have the saying, it is your moral obligation to be successful. And I don't know if I stole this from someone. I probably did because I'm not that smart. I don't, create anything. I just, recycle other people's things. But it is because, you know, when I first started my journey, my biggest why was retiring my father because he was doing the construction himself. He had a construction company. He was laying up cabinets and doors and trim. And he was in his 50s and is coming home from work, passed out at 4:30 p.m. because he left the house at 7 a.m. And and I'm like, he can't do this till 65. I morally cannot let this happen. So I took it upon myself to help him and to do whatever it took so I could retire my father, right? And then I did that. Now I have my employee Olivia. She was making $35,000 the 3 years ago, and ever since she came on our business, she's been making six figures, right? So and the impact that has now, like she's investing in our flips, and now she's able to save. She just bought a brand new house, and she's able to save for retirement, right? So being successful has an impact on other people. And then I've been blessed. I've been helped other people. I've helped dozens of people make over six figures in real estate, and I've helped three people make over $1 million in real estate. What impact does that have on the world? And if I was scared and I listened to fear and I was in my own mind and I was paralyzed by fear, I wouldn't have had this ripple effect of positivity on the world, right? So that's why I say it's your moral obligation to become successful because it's not just about you, but it's all your friends and family around you and the impact you can have on the world. And it's life changing.
I agree completely. And there are so many good nuggets that you threw out there, but the one I want to really pull out is success. And that is one of my biggest gripes with society today because the world sells us a vision of success that's total crap, right? It sells us houses, money, cars, boats, look, whatever. It sells us all this nonsense.
Rolex watches, yeah, all that
Yeah,
stuff,
Rolex
yeah.
watches. Um, it's funny. The best advisor I have is an 80-year-old man who is I don't know his exact worth, but it's in the several hundred millions of dollars range. And he drives a beat up 88 Ford pickup truck.
Mhm.
I don't think he owns a Rolex. I don't think he even owns a watch, to be honest with you. He carries around, or a wristwatch, he carries around a pocket watch. But I mean, like this dude, like you could not tell he has money just by looking at him, right? Because he doesn't care. That's not what success is to him. Success is, like you said, having a positive impact on the people around him. And what I really hate about what the world sells us about success is, we see, Tom Brady doing all these amazing things, Patrick Mahomes, like how he is able to move and throw the football the way he is, I'll never know. That's insane. No one's ever done this before. But what we don't see are, yes, he does have natural talent, but that natural talent is useless unless he puts hours upon hours upon hours, years upon years upon years of hard work into perfecting his craft, perfecting his trade, learning everything he can about what he's doing. Same with you. All your natural skill, your charisma, whatever it is that draws your investors to you and your people to you, all that stuff would be absolutely useless to you without you doing the work first, right? So we're sold this image of, yeah, just, invest the 40 grand into my program. I'll teach you everything you need to know. You'll be a millionaire in 3 months. Right? We're sold this nonsense, but that's not what it is. The success is much deeper than that. Success to me is, like you said, retiring my dad, giving my dad his dreams that he wasn't quite able to achieve. Mine is teaching my children that, hey, you can do whatever you want to do, right? If you want to make millions, you can make millions. If you want to build a beautiful family, you can do that. Like, it's all about just putting in the work and the effort. That's what success is to me. And I think when we buy this nonsense that we see on social media of the cars and the houses and all the crap, it pollutes our minds. And then when we face the challenges, we're not able to withstand the challenges because we don't actually understand what we're doing or the reason we're doing it. Right. So, I mean, like what you were talking about, I want to retire my dad. Right. I don't want the Camaro. I want to retire my dad. It suddenly makes that Camaro much less sexy whenever you're like, I can give my dad his dream. Right. And
100%.
so I think we need to redefine what success is in our culture because it's being polluted with nonsense.
And I think there's a little exercise, if you don't mind, just kind of run through for give me a minute. And for everyone listening, there's a couple of questions to ask yourself and write this down and spend time. I recommend doing this by yourself and also if your significant other, right? So what goals do you want to hit personally and professionally this year and over the next 5 years, right? And like think about it. Like what is important to you? Like mine was like retiring my father. Now it's having Olivia make over 6 figures a year, right? And then like, is it do you want to flip your first house, your 100th house, whatever it is, right? And like write that down. And then um the biggest thing that pushed me to success is then also write another goal about other people who you will serve. So I make a lot of my goals about serving other people. Like mine was retiring my father. So for him to make, we were 50-50 on this flipping company. So for him to make 6 figures and work less. And for me, it's also like my personal goal is to make 6 figures flipping houses and not having a real job. But I didn't think about that as much. I just said, if I focus on him and doing whatever it takes, I'll work 70 hours a week, do the work, learn and put the work in every single day to meet that goal. That pushes me to wake up early, stay up late, and do the work because I'm focused on someone else. We will do more for others than we'll do for ourselves, right? And then now I make my goal about Olivia making 6 figures because if she's making 6 figures, my office manager, that means our company's healthy. So all I have to focus on is her. Does that make sense? I'm not focused about me. Um, and then write about how you will feel once you achieve that goal because that's where it really comes in. Like visualize, taking a second and visualizing, oh my God, like the best feeling in the world was my dad shutting down. I remember it was in his living room. He shut down his construction business. That was the best feeling in the world. Right there. It doesn't matter about I could buy the biggest house in the world. Nothing compares to that, right? How you will feel in that moment. Visualize that moment, how you'll feel achieving that goal, how your spouse will look at you differently. You will feel different about yourself. Your children will look at you differently, right? They'll be like, oh my gosh, my dad just did the coolest thing. He just achieved his goal. He put himself out in the world every single day. And they see that. You put yourself out there, you do the work, right? And how you'll feel about that. And then the fourth thing, and I think is the most important thing, and I think most people do not do enough, is how you feel if you do not achieve the goal. Not even achieve it, how you feel if you do not try to achieve the goal, if you do not put in the work, and you know that you could have done it if you believed in yourself enough, right? So then, if I never retired my father and I bought the Camaro, how I would feel? I would be like, I'm a failure, right? Because I know if I would have put in the work, I could have done it, right? My spouse would look at me differently, like, oh my gosh, like have that feeling, like, oh, and then like I'm not a good leader to my children. I mean, so it's very heavy. But those four things, what you want, how you can help other people, how you feel achieving it, and how you feel if you do not achieve it are very important. I recommend doing it in your business and in your personal life as well. Setting those goals with yourself and also with your significant other. Spend a few hours and then the plan will also change. We do this every single year. I love Christmas time because every single year we look at what our personal goals are. Um, and I recommend doing those four things. Those are going to be life changing.
They are 100%. I actually teach a month-long program. I call it purposeful success, mastering the art of goal setting. Right. And people, when they start the program, I start with purpose and why. And then because in order to get to where you're going, you got to know, one, where you're going, and two, where you're starting from. Um, and then the goals in between are how you get to that purpose. But we start with 10 years, and people are like, you want me to think about where I'll be in 10 years? I'm like, absolutely. Like, that's part of it. Like, you got to know where you're going, or you'll never get there. And my company did a study and we went and asked um 100 people, and just just I was just trying to gauge. Obviously it's not a comprehensive study, but we went and asked 100 people what their purpose in life was, and only 3 people actually gave me a good, thoughtful answer.
Mm,
Only 3 out of 100. Only 3 people gave me a good, thoughtful answer. That's insane, right?
yeah.
Most people, like 70% of the people, just looked at me like I was stupid for even asking. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know, right? And how can you get to where you're supposed to go in life, or where you want to go in life, if you don't even know where it is, right? So I love that, and I love the advice of thinking about what you're going to do for other people, because I think it's probably safe to say if you bought that Camaro at 19 years old, uh, I think it's more likely two things would have happened. One, you would have either wrecked it because you're 19 and you're dumb, or you would have sold it by now and you wouldn't, it no longer brings you joy. It would have stopped bringing you joy probably 6 months after you bought it. You would stop caring. So, I mean, all of that, it's just like that article I just read. It's all fleeting. But your dad retiring, closing his business, like, that's something that's going to last the rest of his life, the rest of your life, probably the rest of your kid's life. Maybe the grandkids. But I mean, that is, when we talk, everybody, and it drives me nuts. One of the biggest um catchphrases, I guess, nowadays is changing generations, right? We want to change generations. So that's how you do it, right? It's not what these gurus say, excuse me. It's not this guru nonsense that they sell in the self-help aisles. It is simply thinking about other people before you think about yourself, being kind and compassionate. um I love that. I that is so important, and I love your strategy. I'm probably going to implement that one myself, because I've never actually sat and thought like what I'm going to feel like if I don't achieve this. So that's pretty powerful. I think I'm going to start doing that with my wife, and when we sit, because we do the same thing every year at New Year's, we sit down, we redraft our goals for the next 10 years, and then build our midterm goals, our short-term goals, and we craft our lives. And there, I think, I'd love to hear your experience with this, because I feel like where a lot of people get stuck is they like, okay, I want to do this thing, and I'm just going to use this as an example because, make it easy. I want to, in the next 5 years, I want to buy a house in Boca Raton, Florida. Right. And then the wife gets pregnant. Well, having kids is expensive. And suddenly buying that house in Boca Raton, Florida kind of takes a back seat because, well, you got something else to think about, a kid. So we feel like we've failed because our goal had to change. But that's actually the beauty of setting long-term goals, is they're fluid and you can manipulate them. Like, okay, so we had a kid, we weren't planning on that. So the 5 year Boca Raton house is going to have to go to maybe 7 years while we get this kid thing figured out. And I feel like people get so rigid in their goals that when they don't, when they meet adversity, it's like, oh, what, how's the old saying? If it doesn't bend, it will break. Right. And that your goals are the same way. They got to be able to bend, they got to be fluid, they got to be flexible. You got to allow life to happen. Otherwise, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to quit.
That is, you nail on the head. Um, so in 2017, when I told my dad I'm going to retire him, I said, I'm going to retire you in a year. And I failed. It took me 2 years. Zooming out doesn't matter. By the time I'm 80 years old and he's 80 years old, that it took 24 months instead of 12 months. No, because we did it, right? And like you said, then goals change also as well. Like the Boca Raton thing. I've been writing goals for a very long time, and it's cool to revisit them after you've saved them. And a lot of and I thought it was going to be in financial planning world. I thought it was going to be under other industries, but a lot of what I was looking for, the end result was the same, of having like time freedom, financial freedom, being healthy, being able to do what I want when I want. Tuesday trips to the zoo when my kid has a zoo trip on a Tuesday and the dads have to go to work and I don't have to, and I can be there. That's more important than the big house to me, right?
Right.
And I thought I was going to do that in the financial planning world and then maybe, other different industries, right? But I'm here now in the flipping world and multifamily buying world, and it's okay. Like I got to where I wanted to be. Maybe it took longer than what I wanted, right? But that's okay. Right. And then, the way you get there changes. And then your goals will also change too. Like you said, now you have a kid. Now you're going to put like, hey, instead of me focusing on this Boca Raton house, which is great, maybe I get it in 5 years. That's cool. Maybe it's 7 years. That's okay. But maybe I want to be the best father now. And I want to teach
Right.
them how to go and attack the world and become the best version of themselves. And that's more important than the Boca Raton house. I think everyone in the world could, attest to that, right? So our goals will change. That's okay. And like you said, be flexible with the timeline of your goals as well.
Yeah, I want to share a statistic with you. This is from Harvard University. They did a study and they ask, I don't have how many people they asked, but so they went around and they asked students if they wrote their goals down or not. Only 3% of the surveyed students wrote their goals down. Obviously, the other 97% did not. Of that 3%, they made 98.9% more after graduation than the 97%. And that's insane. Stats don't lie. Like, that is so insane how much power, right? Understanding your goals, understanding where you're going, that's how much power it has. 98.9% more than the other 97%.
And I love that you shared that too. I think I remember hearing that from Jack Canfield. And what's so funny? Like, all right, I'm not that smart, and that's okay. Like, that's a beautiful thing. You don't have to be successful. So if you're listening to this, like, okay, we're both saying it's important to write your goals. Harvard is saying it's important to write your goals. Here's my goals right here, my 2023 goals, right? I have them next to me. I review them. Um, and he has his goals right there, right? And I know other successful people, they write down goals, right? Okay, so stop. You want to be successful? Immediately start writing down goals. Go through those 4 things I just talked about, right? I learned that. And then I was like 90% of millionaires made through real estate. So then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna write goals and focus on real estate, right? Like I just look for the easiest path to become successful, and I just look for other people who are successful, grab that, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna put that in my tool chest, right? But I love that thing about goals. Like I got mine right here, you got yours. I think it's the most important thing because if you don't have a vision, I think it's in the Bible. Those like I forgot, like those who don't have a vision will perish. Um, And it's so true because if you don't have a reason to get up at 6 in the morning and fight fear every single day, and if it's not strong enough, you will perish. Because if you're just doing it for the Rolex isn't going to push you enough to be successful. And I don't have a Rolex; it's an Apple Watch. So, but yeah, I love that.
No, that's funny. Yeah, I don't have a Rolex either. I don't even know how to say this. So it's a nice watch. I did not buy this watch though. It's probably like a $900 watch. It was my wedding gift from my father-in-law.
Oh, that's cool.
So I mean, it's and I love watches. Like watches are one of my things. Like he and I have that in common. We both love watches. But like you said, like until I have like just all the money is like I don't know what to do. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna go buy a watch because what else am I gonna do? Like, and it's gonna be a
that's it.
long time before I reach that point. So I mean, you know, I was given a nice watch. I take good care of it. I wear it. Like, great. Um, like I said, I drive a 2000 Jeep Wrangler.
That's cool,
Good.
man. I
Yeah, go ahead.
I know, I love it. I mean, that's I mean, because then that's another thing too. Like, if you I meet a lot of people who can't even take the time to start podcasting, flipping houses, whatever their dreams are, because they're flooded with debt. Because they have the big house, they have to, BMWs parked in the front. They have to keep this persona up alive, and they can't afford to take risks. They can't afford to, uh, uh, not get paid for a while. Like when you're starting any business, you're not going to get paid for a long time, and that's okay. That's part of it. It weeds a lot of people out that way. Um, like even today, like it's so funny. Like even now, I don't have like this big house. Like I want a big house on the lake, but I'm not gonna get it until I look at my bank account and I'm like, oh, all right, honey, let's go pick out a house, right? And just stroke a check for it. Instead of trying to save, 20%, maybe if we sell the car, then we can afford this house and trying to get by on it. No, just keep reinvesting yourself in your business, into assets until you get to a point where you said that watch you want so you look at your bank account and you're like, all right, it's a, $30,000 watch, I have a couple hundred grand and we just sold something. That's cool. I can reward myself and go get that watch instead of, trying to save every single penny. I know a lot of friends and family who do that and they have nothing to show for it. I mean, all that, watches and cars and houses, like all that stuff just is a distraction, from the real goal. And I think most people's real goals are to be financially free, to do what they want when they want. And it's not to buy the big shiny house or the new car. But I think a lot of people get distracted with that along the way. I think 90+% of people do, because that's the easy button. That's the story you just said. Just throw the papers in the heat. I'll just go get a job and I'll just go get a house now instead of humbling myself and living with my family or living in a cheap apartment in Iowa, to get by. So um, it's not easy. And I always say, like, I love what you said, 10 years. Whenever I start something new, I started this real estate education company. I was like helping people flip houses. And I was like, it takes a lot of time and work. And I'm like, will I have the impact I want in 12 months from now? I'm like, I don't know, probably not. 2 months from now, 2 years from now, maybe. I'm like, 5 years from now, if I show up, and I go on podcasts and I share my story and I help people along the way and I document it. We just did a live event in Key West for 30 something real estate investors. And I'm like, I think in a 5-year period that this will pay off and I'll make the impact on the world that I want. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put in the work. We make 5 TikToks a week. I go on podcasts. I have the Facebook group. I help people. I do one-on-one calls and I speak live. We just did a live a Key West event. I do a monthly free training, how to find apartment deals or houses for free. And I do all this, right? And I do the work. And I think in a 5-year period, it will pay off. Because in a 1-year period, it won't. 2-year period, maybe 3 years, maybe it'll start 4. But I'm like, in 5 years, I'll have the impact on the world that I want.
Yeah, that's a great point. What's that guy's name? Gary, is it Gary? Gary V?
Oh, Gary V, yeah, Gary
Yeah.
Vaynerchuk.
Uh, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him. Um, said that no one cared. about what he had to say for 7 years.
Mm,
It took 7 years for people to finally start giving a crap. And of course, he was very much more colorful with his language.
sure.
But it took 7 years before people started giving a crap about what he had to say. So that is 7 years of being ignored, doing the same thing every single day and just being ignored. That is resilience, my friend. Like
Mm,
that is showing up and putting in the work, right? And obviously we see Gary Vee now and it paid off. His resilience paid off in the long run. And I think that a lot is to be said about delaying gratitude, or not gratification.
hmm
Um, because like we were just talking, that I will own a Rolex one day just because I think they're cool. And you know, I think like I said, I like watches and I think Rolexes are cool. And I will own one day. But that day that I, like you said, I finally look at my bank account and go, meh, why not? That is going to be a much different Rolex than if I were, could I buy it now? I could. But if I wait until it's like, why not? Then that impact is going to have, my appreciation for that watch is going to be much greater than if I give in to my temptation now. And just like with your car, right
hmm
now, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever the case may be, maybe instead of the Bumblebee Camaro, you go buy the, 1969 Chevy Camaro
Yeah.
Z28, like that's, completely rebuilt and beautiful. And
Well, let me add to that. So in 29, I think it was 20, no, 2020, I bought the car that this is funny. So it took till 2020 after I retired my dad, and I bought a 4 unit apartment. My dad and I, we paid for it in cash. We fixed it up, and then we used that money. I was making like $700 a month after expenses. We split in half, and I used that to buy the car I want, which was, so this is cool. I have a 2017 Maserati Ghibli. Um, so it's kind of funny. A used
nice.
Maserati is the same price as a brand new Camaro. It's funny. I only paid 36, $39,000 for the car in 20, I had 30 something thousand miles. It was under 40,000 bucks. Nothing like, not, I didn't pay brand new. They're 80, just about at 3 years old. They depreciate right off the bat. But this is the cool thing. So it's like cooler. Well, there's actually why two reasons. There's a couple of reasons why I like it more. It's funny because it has 4 seats. The Camaro, actually, no, the Camaros do have 4 seats, but like a lot of exotic cars, Corvettes or whatever, they only have 2 seats. But it's actually like a 4 door. The Camaros are 2 doors, right? So
Mhm.
it's actually like a nice like sedan. And then it's the same price, but it's like way cooler sound. Everyone looks at it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just like it's a Italian sports car. It's a Ferrari engine for 40,000 bucks. It's like I think the best bang for the buck in a sports car. So again, I think this car is better than the 2012 Bumblebee, right?
Right.
And I was able to buy it, and I actually had my tenants pay for my payment. So I didn't pay for it. I got a free car is because of that delayed gratification. I got something for free. It was like we were talking about. I'm like, hey, you know what? I have money for the down payment. This apartment building pays for this car. Now I can just buy it and it's free. And I get to drive around free car.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's so much cooler. I think that's the key is and it is. I mean, a Maserati versus a Camaro. I mean, come on, which
Yeah.
one's cooler? So I mean, yeah, that's 100%. And my wife's dream car, and I think it's so dumb. It is just, well, what is it, an Audi 8? I can't remember
Oh yeah. Is it
it,
the i8, the 2 door and they go up?
no,
Or
no,
no?
not even. It's just the standard Audi sedan.
Oh, okay.
It's lame. It's so lame.
It's not lame. Audis are pretty cool.
But that's her dream car, and it's like, okay, honey, we can do the Audi, and she's like, no, I'll just drive a Volkswagen.
Mhm,
Audis are stupid. And so I love that, like she, her willingness to delay that gratification, because now I get to go, one day, pay cash for her dream car, because she's never in her life has she owned a new car. So,
mhm,
I know it's dumb, but I just, once in her life, I want her to have a brand new car, to have that experience, that new car smell, everything. So one day I'm going to go pay cash for her dream car and show up and like, here, babe, like this is for you. Enjoy it. And like that's what gets me jazzed every day is to think I'm changing my wife's life. My wife was born in Ukraine. She was
Oh,
born
wow.
very, very right. She knows what it's like to live in a 2 bedroom apartment with 8 people. Right. She knows what that's like. She knows what it's like to not have heat when it is sub-zero. She knows what it's like to have to eat potato water soup for days on end because that's all your family can afford. So I get to change her life, right? I get to change
Mhm.
my children's life, my parents' life. Like I get to change just by having one simple dream and having the work ethic, discipline, and integrity to get up every single day and go chase that dream. I am going to change everybody's life. And it just goes back to what you said earlier. It's not about me. It's about who I get to impact. And when I talk about my purpose, that is my purpose. Is I want to change the world by impacting as many leaders as I can so that they are going to go impact their charges. And that is my effort to make the world a better place. So, I mean, when we approach everything with that mentality, it changes literally everything. I can't think of anything it wouldn't change. It changes your
Mhm.
perspective on everything. So, super, super powerful, man. So, we're running out of time. I really appreciate your time and your vulnerability and sharing your story. Um, Incredible, incredible story, my man. Go ahead and tell people how they can find you. You talked about your education program you got going on with your TikToks and your videos and all that stuff. Tell people how they can find you, get a hold of you, ask you questions, maybe get in business with you.
Yeah, so you can go to our website, rewbuilders.com. That stands for Real Estate Wealth Builders. We have a lot of free education. I have a free Facebook group, Real Estate Wealth Builders. I post in there every single day. I document my journey, flipping houses, buying apartments, right? And we have free trainings. If you want to learn how to flip houses, you go to our website. I have a free training, how I made $55,000 buying, fixing, flipping houses. It's a 30-minute video of how I look at houses, how we underwrite the property and analyze it. If you want to get into apartments, I wholesaled a 20-unit apartment building, made a $175,000 assignment fee check, which basically means I found a seller and I found a buyer. I'd never owned the property. I made $175,000 for doing that. That's a free video as well. We have a lot of free trainings. Every single month we put on free trainings on either flipping houses or buying apartment buildings. We rotate them every single month. So we have that. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring, you can book a call with us about that as well. But I highly recommend just joining our Facebook group and being inside there and even just checking out those videos, even if you're not interested, you don't want to do real estate full time, just it's good to understand too, because I talk about marketing, raising capital, and project management, which is very important in any single business. So that's how you can reach out to us. Go to rewbuilders.com.
All right. I love it. And of course, I will have links to his social medias and to his website as well. So make sure you just scroll down into the show notes, give him tons and tons of love. And like I say, I only bring you people that I trust that I would go into business with myself. So I fully vouch for he's a good dude who is a servant of the people rather than a servant of his bank account. So, and I think you all got a good sense of that listening to his story. So make sure you scroll down, go give him tons and tons of love. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. And once you're done doing that, head over to renownleadership.com and give me some love. Click on the talk to a coach button in the top corner, or I'm sorry, top center of the screen. And you can come talk to me for absolutely free. We'll just have a conversation and see how I can help you grow either in your career or in your personal life. So Mike, before I let you go, man, my guests get to answer the final word of wisdom, if you will. And I changed the question recently. The question is now, what does leading like a champion mean to you?
What does leading like a champion mean to you? That's a good question. Well, like I was saying, making your goals about other people, it's about putting other people first and focusing on them, right? And I'm so blessed, and I'm very blessed. Like even our subcontractors, like contractors who are 1099, they do a lot of our houses, but they also do take on other projects. 2 years ago on Christmas Eve up in Michigan, it was really cold, and one of my apartment's pipes froze and busted, and there's water going everywhere on Christmas Eve. And he went out there and fixed the leak without having to. I was just told, I was like, dude, I'm like, oh my God, there's a leak. He's like, don't worry about it. I was like, can you do it like after Christmas? He's like, I'll do it right now. And he went out there and took it upon himself. So that just speaks volume to, um, you know, the business that we do. And like, we take care of them. We send them birthday gifts. We go Top Golf every year, send their wives gifts when they're sick, and flowers and chocolates. And by doing that and being a strong leader, without having to use force, people are willing to go above and beyond for you. And I'm just, very blessed to have that.
I agree completely. Again, that comes back to being a servant. When you're a servant to people, it's pretty natural that they want to be a servant back to you. And like you said, go above and beyond a lot of times. So I absolutely love that. That's great advice. So that's going to wrap it up this week, guys. Mike, again, I appreciate you so much for coming on here and sharing your story with us. It was super powerful. I absolutely love it. Big fan. To the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning in this week. I will see you all same time, same channel next week. And in the meantime, never, ever forget, lead like a champion. Goodbye, everybody.